if someone calls someone a chakka or someone uses language that's derogatory towards trans people or cracks a homophobic joke, or if you have a queer friend who is maybe gay or dealing with something, like make sure that they're safe na, make sure that they're not being bullied or being isolated.
Like ऐसे कौन से राइट्स है जो like बहुत ज़्यादा मैंडेटरी है उनके लिए, और ऐसी कौन सी चीज़ें जो हम लोग बदल सकते हैं ताकि फिर उनको like comfortness और सारी चीज़ें सेम मिल जाए.
One small example, in the Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act, there is a part of that act which says the punishment for harassing, sexually harassing or physically harassing a trans person is 6 months to 2 years maximum. For a biological woman, it's 10 years to maximum life imprisonment. So do you see how there's like a obvious disparity where why is it that my body does it have like lesser value or something, that if someone assaults me, the perpetrator should not be punished as severely as someone who does it to a biological female or a cis woman? Like that's insane, you know. Marriage equality is not a thing in the country. If you're transgender on documents or if you're homosexual, you can't get married, right? And if you can't get married, then you can't take medical decisions for your partner. Insurance will not extend to your partner. Taking a home loan together becomes an issue. Changing my passport was the worst thing I've had to undergo with any documentation, because you have one person sitting in front of you and they'll be like, you're a woman, really? You have any proof? And sometimes there's a man sitting opposite you, okay? And you can just tell that they're being creepy and they're just asking things just for the sake of it, maze ke liye, to be like, oh ma'am, you know, what's between your legs? And like, it just, those conversations can be so strange because you also want your passport. So like get it done. So there's a lot that needs to change.
What was keeping you going? What was the support system? Did you have one at that time?
At that point in time, I thought that if my life ends today, then it's going to be my old name everywhere. Like it's going to be that name on social media or like wherever. And I don't want to leave this world living as a man. You know, if it happens, it has to happen glamorously. As myself, I have to experience this world in my true body and in my true identity for some time. And I think that idea that there is a version of myself out there that I need to access that is not here yet, that kept me going. I was just following that voice because there were times that my parents didn't understand either. They get it now. But the first thing that my mum said, you know, when I came out as queer was, are you going to grow boobs? Because I can't take that. Like, that's too much LGBT for me. And I was like, I get it now, you know, because it's not easy for any parent when a child has an unconventional path. And then I think when my parents went to therapy and started understanding things themselves, then those 3-4 years later, they became more of a support system in my life, for sure.
That's quite a cool thing to hear, that your parents went to therapy.
Yeah, that never happens, right?
Yeah. Was it at their own decision? Was it something that you pushed them to do?
So there was a friend of theirs who was a psychologist, and he knew that this was happening. And so, you know, mom was like, let's chat and see. And that's what happened. And now, my God, my mom will look at all of this therapy, speak on Instagram and be like, do you have abandonment issues? I'm like, what? And she'll be like, generalized anxiety. She knows all the words now and it's really like, wow. I think for them to access therapy and to do the work was my biggest blessing in some ways. Because if they hadn't done that, they wouldn't have supported my transition. You know, when I started making money off of content and acting and things, I could fund the rest of my transition.
Yeah.
But those first few initial steps was them. I think if you've brought a child into this world and they're queer or gay or bi or whatever, you have a responsibility to support that child. And even if it's a career choice you don't agree with, a partner you don't agree with or whatever, they're still your child. Like, you should be allowed to go back home and be like, Mom, help, you know. And I think to have that support system now is a privilege. It really is.
To have parents who actually understand you is a privilege, no matter
Yeah.
where you are and who you are. I really feel so.
I have a question. How many of you in the room think your parents understand you? Show of hands. I'd say like a good 30-40%. I just want to say one thing. I feel like as kids, right, we really expect our parents to be perfect, and we expect them to be this position of authority that they know everything.
Yeah.
They know how to be with you. It's not true. They will never be perfect. Even if you're 30 years old, they will not understand certain things about you. And so much of becoming an adult is just knowing that, okay, I will accept them as they are.
Yeah.
I can't change them beyond a certain point, and I will go and have my own life and career and whatever outside of that space.
Yeah.
But our parents are human beings. They're imperfect people, as are we. No one is perfect.
I find this fascinating that your parents actually decided to go for therapy to understand their child better. That is just, I think, like a radical thing that I've heard.
That's true. For them, it started with language. My mother is Bengali. My father is Telugu. So the thing is, with Bengali and Telugu being two completely different languages, gender is also different, no? So for them to use the right pronouns in Telugu and Bengali and stuff, it was very complicated for them. So I think they needed help to figure out, firstly, okay, this is my daughter. And when they believed that, it started changing in their language. But that initial step of, okay, we need help, it mostly came because there was this, sounds cheesy, but unconditional love in some ways for their kids, where they were like, we can't have anything bad happen to you medically. If she goes and does something and it doesn't work, or there's a mistake, it's irreversible, right? So they knew that education and health are two things that we will not compromise on, which means we have to understand our child better,
Yeah.
no matter what that takes. And that is what led them to,
How amazing.
invest in that as a process.
I mean, that is genuinely, I mean, full marks to them for being parents who
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
go to that step for their child. That's
Not a lot of parents do it.
Yeah, it's a tough thing, And I've now at this point been to over 150 campuses in India. And the number one thing that I keep hearing from young people about any of the mental health issues that they go through is that my parents don't understand me.
Yeah.
It is really like the crux of what makes so many young people go through depression, go through anxiety, that I want to be something, I want to be somebody, but I wish my parents would understand. I wish they would see me for who I want to be versus who they want me to be, which is always the biggest barrier in young people
100%.
even finding happiness in their lives. So I actually, for you, I mean, I can't even imagine how hard it must be. You're doing, you're taken up medical, and that is something that you eventually end up not pursuing full time. And then you are going through something in your identity as well, that again is something that you'll have to explain to your parents. How are you having both of these conversations parallelly?
I was a bad kid. Okay, I was a good kid for a long time, and then I was like, I don't want to be a good kid anymore. The thing about being a good kid in India or anywhere in the world is, if you don't have any needs, you don't ask for anything.
Yeah.
Right? The second you need support, the second you need things, that's when you start becoming a not so good kid. And then if you do something that's opposite to what people want of you, then you're a really bad kid.
Yeah.
So as long as I was a good kid, I realized I wasn't happy at all. And if it was getting me to a point of not wanting to live, then I was like, fuck that shit. Like, I don't want to be this person in my life where I'm this unhappy. It's not worth it.
What was the good kid, what were you doing or being asked to do as a good kid?
Don't fight with people. Don't walk like a girl. Don't talk like a girl. Don't play with the girls.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe and share.